Good evening, friends. The subject of my talk this evening is non-violence. Violence is as ancient as the existence of living beings. There has always been violence. And this violence is usually caused by living beings. So human beings have suffered from violence from the very dawn of human existence. That's why they have craved absence of violence, which is non-violence. And gradually religion developed, and some saintly souls arrived one after another. Their teachings were also there. Let me remember the teachings that are there in the religious scriptures, different religious scriptures of the world. Well, let me refer to Hinduism first. This is the most ancient living faith in the world. Other religions came and went, but Hinduism has survived. So, in one scripture of Hinduism, the name of the scripture is Shvetashvatara Upanishad. This is Sanskrit name, Shvetashvatara Upanishad. And there we read the teaching that is being given to all human beings by the scriptures. Ma hingsi purusham jagat, that is mentioned. Do not commit violence to this world. That is the teaching. Violence is the product of human effort, it looks like. And then in Islam, that book which is Hadith Sharif, there we read, God doesn't like them who torture others. So Hadith Sharif is teaching that you should not be violent to others. Then in the Christian Gospel, according to Saint Matthew, we read, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you. This is the teaching of Jesus Christ, a divine incarnation. He was born in Judaism, and his followers are called Christians, because Jesus Christ was there. But Christianity is no other than Judaism, modified version. So Jesus Christ again says, you must be perfect just as your Father in heaven is perfect. And our idea of God is that there is only goodness is God, in God. Violence is not good, so there should not be any violence in God. So Jesus is saying, you must be perfect just as your Father in heaven is perfect. You must not be bad, you must not be violent. That is the teaching. In spite of all these teachings, one may wonder, why is there violence in this world? For example, why was Jesus Christ crucified? Or why was Buddha, Gautama Buddha, given food mixed with poison? Why people wanted to torture them? They were in favor of non-violence. And yet they also had to suffer from violence. Then we can ask the question that Rama is considered a divine incarnation in Hinduism, and Krishna also is considered a divine incarnation in Hinduism. As God is goodness itself, they were also goodness itself, because they are divine incarnations. But why did Rama fight and kill? According to the story about Rama, we read that he killed his enemy, King Ravana, and others. And Krishna was also considered the greatest fighter, even though he did not take part in the Kurukshetra battle. He was considered the greatest warrior. Nobody can be a warrior without being violent. So they were also violent. And all the religious groups have teachings that do not commit violence to others. In spite of that, these religious groups fight with one another. Even not too long ago, some years ago, the Catholics and the Protestants were fighting with each other in Ireland for political reasons. And the world has seen two great world wars. And I was a child when the Second World War was going on. And the war was mainly between the allies of Great Britain and the allies of Germany. Germans are also Christians. And British, yes, they are also Christians mostly. But they fought. Two great battles, and so many people were killed. So much violence was there in the war. So these are certain things which are difficult for us to understand. Then one may think that divine incarnations themselves are non-violent. But Rama was a divine incarnation, Krishna was a divine incarnation in Hinduism, and they took part in violence. They are divine incarnations. The Hindu scriptures say that why God becomes a divine incarnation. They have given the answer. When there is decline in spirituality and rise up irreligion, then God bodies himself forth to revive spirituality in the world. Yada yada hi dharmasya glanid bhavati bharata abhyutthanam adharmasya tatatmanam srijamyam. That's Krishna, a divine incarnation, is saying. Whenever there is decline in spirituality, then I body myself forth to revive spirituality in the world. And how do I do that? By destroying the wicked and saving those who are not wicked. Violence is there also. Sri Ramakrishna, whose picture you can see behind me, he is considered one of the two latest divine incarnations. Sri Ramakrishna and Sri Sarada Devi, these two are the latest divine incarnations. Genuine divine incarnations as judged by the scriptures of Hinduism. It was Sri Ramakrishna who recognized Jesus Christ as a divine incarnation. That's why one of his foremost followers, Sri Ramakrishna's foremost followers, Swami Bhaskarananda, started the Ramakrishna Order of monks and devotees. And they all accept Jesus Christ as a divine incarnation. In all the centers of the, just about all the centers of the Ramakrishna Order, Jesus Christ is adored. In some places he is worshipped. So that was Sri Ramakrishna. He was also in favor of non-violence. He was a divine incarnation. But in his life we read about one of his followers who later on became a saint. His name was Swami Yogananda. His pre-monastic name was Yogin. One day Yogin came to see Sri Ramakrishna, and Sri Ramakrishna took him to a box in which just his clothes were kept. He had very few clothes. And there was a cockroach sitting there in that box. And Sri Ramakrishna said to Yogin, Yogin, take out this cockroach and kill it. Yogin took out the cockroach. A little later he came back. Sri Ramakrishna asked Yogin, did you kill the cockroach? Yogin was a kind-hearted person. He did not want to kill any creature. He said, no, I released it. Then Sri Ramakrishna said to him, well, I asked you to do something and you didn't do it. So when I won't be here, then there will be a big problem for you. Because I am supposed to be your teacher, spiritual teacher. That is the implication. So you should obey your spiritual teacher. That is the injunction of Hinduism. So Sri Ramakrishna, even the divine incarnation, he encouraged killing the cockroach. So he encouraged violence then. But here you have to understand one thing. A divine incarnation knows That's this entire world or creation is a play of God. God has created this world with his power of magic, and that is called Maya. With his power of magic, he has created this world. So this world does not have any real existence. But those who are under the spell of God's magic, they see this world, such as us. I have clarified this point in the past also in at least one of my talks. Suppose I am a great hypnotist, I can do mass hypnotism. And with my hypnotic power, if you are sitting around me, I hypnotize you all and say to all of you, look at this tiger sitting next to me. Then you all, being hypnotized, will see that tiger. But I am the hypnotist. Will I see that tiger? No. I am not hypnotized, so I will not see that tiger. So also the creator God has created this world with his power of magic called Maya. So from God's point of view, this world does not have any real existence. Those are under the spell of God's magic. To them, this world is very real. Wonderful idea. So that's why the world which has been created by God has violence along with non-violence with it. It is a world of pairs of opposites. If there is light, there is darkness. If there is joy, there is sorrow, and so on. They all come in pairs. So violence and non-violence, they also come in pairs. But nothing is real. Otherwise, you look at the world, you will see that inside our body, even though I may think I am a non-violent person, inside my body, some germs are entering in order to survive and multiply. And there are white blood corpuscles in my blood. They are fighting with these intruding germs. This fight is going on and on. And as long as the white blood corpuscles win victory, those germs will not create any disease in us. And we use antibiotics also to kill those microscopic germs. Is it not violence? Yes. They are violent to us, so we have to be violent to them for survival. You will see that one layer of living beings survive by eating another layer of living beings. You will see that in the insect world. The larger insect will survive by killing the smaller insects, and that's how they survive. There are many exponents of non-violence. One who is well known in India is not alive anymore. His name was Mohan Karamchand Gandhi, or Mahatma Gandhi as he is called. He started a freedom movement in India, because India at that time was under the British rule. The British ruled India for nearly 200 years. And so Gandhi, whom we call Mahatma, great-souled Gandhi, Mahatma Gandhi, thought that to become free from the British rule, we should take the help of some non-violent method. Why? Because it would not be possible for the Indians to take violent action. In British India, even knives with longer blades were not allowed. And carrying swords or guns, they are considered illegal, and so nobody would have them. When we were children, we are taught to indulge in mock fights with the help of sticks, not swords. So, in that country, it was very difficult to use violence against the British, and it is a colonizing power. All colonizing powers use the colonized people to control the government, to run the police department, and all those things. That's why Gandhi thought that the path of non-violence might work. Although I am sure he was not too sure about it, but he tried it. And people would bring out processions demanding independence, and they would chant Vande Mataram, salutation to the motherland, and so on. The British did not like these processions. And some procession leaders would be arrested by the police and put in prison. That's how India was at that time. Then one of the early followers of Gandhi was Subhash Chandra Bose. He was highly educated and everything. He was somehow been able to escape this country and go to Germany. And by being there, when he was there, then the World War II started, and British was also engaged with its allied powers, other nations, engaged in fighting the opposing powers. And Japan was one of those opposing powers. So Japan captured much of Asia at that time, Southeast Asia, including Burma. And then Japanese army was trying to attack India, and the Japanese army defeated the British troops, and British troops there consisted of mostly the Indian soldiers and officers. And then Subhash Chandra Bose was brought to Singapore by the Germans and allowed him to create an Indian national army with the help of those imprisoned Indian officers. And Subhash Chandra Bose introduced the slogan Jai Hind, that is in Urdu or Hindi, which means victory to India. And we were young students at that time. We heard of all these things and we got very much excited. So we would start saying Jai Hind, but not in front of the police. If the police heard that, then the police would arrest us. That's how India was at that time. But this Indian National Army was able to defeat the British forces in Burma and came to the frontier of India. And then Britain also had noticed that in the navy barracks of Indian soldiers, that means they were British at the British soldiers, they saw the writing Jai Hind, etc. And they had spies everywhere. The spies informed that now the soldiers are also not very loyal to the ruling country, that is British. So they had got all those reports and they thought that it was not very safe for them to occupy India. So that's why you see they decided to leave India. That's how the story goes. So Subhash Bose wanted to take recourse to violence, and that helped India to become free from British rule. So there is violence everywhere. What is the solution? How to get rid of violence? So our saintly philosophers and saints, they knew it very well that violence is caused by selfishness. Selfishness can be national selfishness, that is group selfishness, or individual selfishness. So it is due to national selfishness that one country fights with another. It is due to individual selfishness one person tortures another person. Selfishness, that is at the root of violence. Had it been possible to get rid of selfishness, then there would not be any violence. And selfishness is caused by what? Caused by that thought which is in a conscious mind of an individual, and that thought is I. That we call that the ego. The ego. And I have said this many times in the past, but I will say it again. The owner and the object owned cannot be the same. So as I am the owner of my physical body, I have to be different from it. I cannot be my physical body. In the same way, I cannot be my sense organs or motor organs, because I own them. What about my mind? I own my mind also, so I cannot be my mind. But strangely, I have become entangled with the mind in such a way that it is very difficult for me to become disentangled. The thought of my individual existence is a thought of is a conscious mind, which is the ego, I. That's why we should get rid of this I. If we can do that, then we are divinity. But how to do it? Yes, to know that we have to go to some super saints or divine incarnations. Hinduism teaches Uttisthata, Jagrata, Praipya Varan Nibodhata. You will like so many somnambulists. You are moving around in sleep. You go from one dream world to another dream world. When you fall asleep, then your sleep starts with dreams. And in the dream world, whatever you see is your creation, but you as the dreamer don't know it. And if someone there comes and tells you, this world is not real, this world has been created by your mind, then you will say you don't know anything. But then suddenly a dream tiger appears there, and it is about to pounce on you, jump on you. Then out of fright, you wake up. The dream world is gone. Along with that, the dream tiger is also gone. The dream tiger was responsible for the dissolution of the dream world. That is also gone. Then we enter into another dream world, this world which we experience in the waking state. This also has dream tigers. Those dream tigers are the divine incarnations. Like Rama, Krishna, Buddha, Jesus Christ, Sri Chaitanya, Sri Ramakrishna, etc. They are the superior ones. With their help, we can get out of this world. And once we get out of this bondage of the ego, then what happens to these divine incarnations? They will also disappear. But divinity will always be there. That's why the scriptures of Hinduism teach Sarvam Khalidam Brahma, everything is divinity. Tattvamasi, you are divinity. I am also divinity. Aham Brahmasmi, Brahma is divinity. Everything is divinity. This is the teaching, highest teaching of Hinduism. Christianity also teaches the same thing. Be ye perfect as the Father in heaven is perfect. That means you are divinity. But this teaching is meant for those who are highly evolved already mentally. So that's why they can accept this teaching. So, with this sentence, I want to conclude my talk. Uttishtata, Jagrata, Prajva Varan Nibodhata. Make effort to wake up and finding the superior ones become enlightened. Good luck to all of us.